What's up, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of the Bottom Line on Sports. He's Jeremy Pink. I'm Jean-Jacques Taylor, and this is our show about the intersection of sports and money, because everybody loves sports and everybody loves money.
Which one do you love? Which one do you love more?
Sports.
Sports.
Yeah.
All right, so we're even. We're 1-1. Yeah, right.
No, I love sports. It's the last vestige of reality in the world. And money comes and goes. And I know plenty of people. Well, okay, let me rephrase that. I don't know them personally. Plenty of rich people are miserable. So I go with sports. Now,
Okay.
I don't mind an opportunity to see if I could be happy with millions. I really don't mind that. But in lieu of that, I know plenty of rich people who are miserable.
Right. So, you know what? You know what's interesting? I'll tell you one quick story from, not to bore everybody, but when I was young, when our kids were really young, I would say, what does mama love? Mama loves this. What does daddy love? Daddy love. Daddy loves money. And my daughter would say, and I love monkeys, because money sounded like monkey. Anyway, very exciting story from my youth.
Leads, we like to start every show with a number.
Absolutely. And it's money.
This week's number, 2.2 million. That, my friends, drum roll please, is how much money Ronda Rousey made for her fight with Gina Carano, the former action movie star turned MMA fighter. Fight lasted 17 seconds. Tapped out, arm bar. That's something painful they do with your shoulder. They make you tap real quick. And so the fight was underwhelming. Everybody figured Ronda Rousey would win because I couldn't believe this. Gina Carano at her height when she was an action star, and she had some fighting experience. She was spectacularly built.
What was she in? I don't even know who she is.
Oh, I'm getting to that. In a non-sexist way, I mean, she's great body, shaped. I mean, great shape, in shape. But when she signed this fight a year and a half ago, I had no idea she signed that fight. She was 100 pounds overweight. Now, she's tall, like 5'9", I think. So she can carry it a little bit. She's still 100 pounds overweight. She was weighing 241. She weighed in at 141.
Wow. Now, that's a huge transformation.
Ironically enough, her father, Glenn Carano. Do you know who Glenn Carano is?
I have no idea who Glenn Carano is.
Glenn Carano, ladies and gentlemen, number 18 in your sports program, was the third-string quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys in the 70s behind Roger Staubach and Danny Webb.
Where was Clint Longley? Wasn't he the third-string quarterback then?
He was in the early 70s.
He was in the early 70s, okay.
Glenn Carano was the late 70s.
Okay. So
that's her claim to fame to me, although she became more famous than her father. But, the fight also had Nate Diaz. He used to be great. Now he's just kind of cashing paydays. But there were 3 fights, 3 bouts. Ronda Rousey got the biggest check, 2.2 million. Gina Carano, I think, got $1 million. And so they were both good. And they drew more than the men. Now, that leads me to this. I like MMA. I can't tell you a whole bunch of fighters. But if there's a good MMA fight on, I'll watch it. Are you into MMA or boxing?
MMA, not at all. Not at all. Boxing, I used to love boxing.
To love boxing.
Because there just aren't. So the old kind of heavyweights was what I kind of grew up with. These incredible heavyweights who,
right?
Whether it was Muhammad Ali is probably one of my top 3 favorite athletes of all time. And so I was a huge boxing fan when I was a kid because I watched Muhammad Ali sort of later in his career.
Right.
And then there was a series of heavyweights who were really good and pretty interesting, but they were also like not gigantic like they are now, And I could feel like as a spectator, I could kind of relate to them,
Okay. And I'm like you. I grew up with boxing, started with Ali, and then for those of us of a certain age, the middleweights took over in the 80s.
Oh, that's true.
Roberto Duran moved up, Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearns. They were all fighting each other. It was probably one of the golden ages of boxing.
Yeah.
And then Mike Tyson showed up in the late 80s, and now the heavyweights are good again. But after that, man, at some point, boxing just faded to me. It got to be boring. Guys, you're not throwing any punches. It's just boring.
Yeah.
And then MMA popped up, and I'm like, these dudes are fighting. There is no let's fill it out for 5 rounds.
Right.
No, these guys are throwing. They're fighting.
Yeah.
My dad used to be a tournament karate fighter, so that was very familiar to me.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that.
I'm not going to sit there and tell you. I can tell you, oh, these are top ranked guys in the world. But if there's an MMA fight on, I'll go check it out. If all things being equal.
Yeah, I never really kind of got into MMA at all, and I was much more, I much more preferred boxing. I used to cover boxing a little bit. I remember watching a Mike Tyson fight against Razor Ruddock. His first fight against Razor Ruddock was an incredible fight. And this is again when you had sort of heavyweights who were like not much bigger than I am. Mike Tyson's about 5'11", 215, 220. I'm about 6'1" and 201, let's say. So I could sort of relate to him, and it was a great fight with Razor Ruddock, and there isn't that kind of energy anymore. But it reminds me of a good story though, about covering that. Say again?
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And not only does the story comes with an impression, which is even better, is that I was covering it for somebody, and we had the satellite feed coming in at the time. Video wasn't ubiquitous. You couldn't get it at your fingertips. You had to have I was at a television network and we had something coming in. I think I may have been freelancing somewhere.
Right.
So I don't remember exactly what it is, but we had the news conference or the post-game interview with Mike Tyson come in that never made it to air, but we could see sort of the unvarnished Mike Tyson. And this is in the late 80s, early 90s, which was incredible to see because nobody got to see it. So it was this fight against Razor Ruddock, which was a great fight between these two. It was really close. Tyson won, but Ruddock was just brutal to Tyson. I'd never really seen Tyson have to fight like that up until that point. And so they interviewed Mike Tyson afterwards, and here's my impersonation. You ready?
Yes.
Said, so Mike, what'd you think about the fight? And he said, "Ooh, rematch for Razor Ruddock. Ooh, Razor Ruddock. He hits so hard, he hits like a fucking mule kick." All right, that's my story. Good?
I like that. Yes, I like that.
Yeah, not too bad. But what was great about it, aside from my wonderful impersonation, is that it was, to your point, it was a fight.
Yeah.
It was good. The people had personality. It was exciting. What ended up happening is you started to have the alphabet soup of governing bodies take over boxing, and then you just kind of lost interest. And then it became money. It became money. Really was always a major issue in boxing, but it destroyed the sport.
I think you're right, because at a certain point, everybody used to know who the heavyweight champ was. Then it became the WBO champ, the WBC champ, the IBF champ. Like, okay, who's the champ? Now we're going to unite the belts, but I don't want to fight this guy, so I'm going to give my belt up. You're right. They screwed that thing up, and that's what happens so many times. Man.
But that's the brilliance of what Dana White did with UFC. Is he said, "This is what it is. It's a single unit. It's a governing body. They put on all the events. They didn't have external promoters, although they kind of do now. And that really kind of unified the sport and allowed it to overtake boxing. Plus, it's a much more kind of visceral sport to watch, which is more appealing to a younger crowd than guys hitting with gloves."
Yeah, no, I get you on that. Let's move on. Let me give you some good news out there. This may be some of the best news I've heard today, and I'm going to share it with you. And I want you to put it into practice before me, because I'm a benevolent sort of guy. And stop that. You, my friend, can now, with no shame attached, open up an OnlyFans account.
Well, so who's saying I don't have one already?
Oh,
I
See?
don't. I don't. Actually, what's interesting, people pay me not to be on OnlyFans.
Nah. Before, if your significant other got on your computer, say had an OnlyFans account, she probably thought you were one of those people that helped Sophie Rain make $100 million in 2 or 3 years. But instead, now you can get on there and help your favorite Olympic athlete get the gold by opening up an OnlyFans account. It's got to be good news to you, me, everybody.
Yeah. It's Front Office Sports had a really good article about that in this week on the number of professional athletes who are opening up OnlyFans accounts, and it's a lot of athletes who are in kind of
Fringe sports.
the minor professional sports. Uh, and I was actually after I read it, I wasn't surprised, but I hadn't really thought about that before. Do you think that diminishes them in any way? Do you think
Hell no.
anybody cares? Because I don't think anybody cares.
I don't think anybody cares. And if we're gonna keep it a buck, that's 100 for you old people. That means tell the truth. It's they're it's what we said. They're participating in fringe sports that don't have a lot of support. It costs money to train. It costs money to travel. And if you don't have it, you got to go get it from somewhere. Sometimes you may be able to get a sponsor, but if you can't get a sponsor because again you're on a fringe sport, perhaps like beach volleyball or some of these
Hmm.
other sports,
Hmm.
this is just a way to generate a revenue stream. And and so you can have people subscribe to your page or your channel, and you can provide them with behind the scenes training. You
Hmm.
can you can have chats. They can go into your DMs, ask special certain questions. I mean, develop a relationship. They can ask you for, hey, can you do me a training video? It's whatever people are willing to pay for, they can do, and all they got to do is pay your subscription fee, which is usually somewhere, get this, between $5 and $10.
You seem to know the subscription fees pretty well. That's
I
all.
read the damn story so I can
Right.
get paid.
But I thought what I thought I was surprised by was the number of sponsors who actually work with these athletes on their OnlyFans feeds. And it kind of makes sense because
Yeah.
if I'm paying a subscription, or even if I'm, a free, I guess there's free and paid accounts. Even if I'm on a free account, free account on a given athlete's whatever page or whatever it's called, um, it makes sense because I will have an affinity toward this athlete, in a certain way, and I'm going to follow what he or she does. And if I'm willing to pay money for it, it makes a lot of sense that a sponsor would say, "Hey, you know what? If the endorsement of this athlete might actually be worth a little bit more than the sort of broader endorsement of other athletes because the consumer already is paying to watch this specific person." So that really surprised me. That seems to be where I think they can actually make the most money.
It seems to be, to follow me here, it also feels like a podcast concept in terms of you have a very specific audience that's coming to this particular channel. And so that based on the audience that's coming, based on the beach volleyball audience that's coming to follow this person, we can sell swim gear on here. We can
Yeah.
sell suntan lotion on here. We can sell sunglasses on here. We can sell volleyballs on here because this is as specific an audience as you can get. And somebody who worked in TV for decades, all TV cares about is can we narrow down and figure out who
Yeah.
the heck is watching this so we can charge the advertiser the most
Well,
money possible.
you're 100% spot on. I do some consulting with a lot of different media companies these days, and one of the things that I tell almost every one of them is you have to think narrow and deep because
Yeah.
narrow and deep wins now. And that's not just in media, that's almost in anything because there's so much information at your fingertips. If you become a subject matter expert and you can go deep in your subject or whatever your domain is, uh, the narrower and deeper you go, actually, it's kind of the inverse. You would think that it would be a limited audience, but
Mm.
the actual amount of money people are willing to pay is going to be far greater because they're specifically interested in that. I look at it like I always tell people it's like a thesis in college that you write. If you have a broad thesis statement, you're not going to really write a great paper. But if you have a very narrow and deep thesis statement, chances are your paper is going to be much better.
No, and it's it's the same thing. You can get if you find the right niche, it's a very passionate audience.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And it doesn't, and when it's very passionate, it doesn't even have to be big, as long as they're passionate. You'd rather have 100 passionate people who love you and follow you and ride with you, subscribers, than 1,000 subscribers who come and go,
Well,
and you're not really that big a deal to them.
you want me to give you, not only am I give you a Mike Tyson impersonation, I'm going to give you I'm going to give you an economic term. There's far less price elasticity for those groups. People are willing to pay, they're going to be less, a $1 price increase isn't going to matter to them very much.
Right.
I always look at it like this. If you have a son or a daughter who's playing a college sport, let's say they're playing, college volleyball Division 3, and you live halfway across the country from them, you're going to pay, if there's a video feed of their live games and you can't go to all their games, you don't really care if you pay $10, a month to watch these games or $50 a month. The same
Yeah.
principle is with, if you're really deeply interested or passionate in the subject you're following or the person you're following, you're kind of indifferent whether you pay $10 a month or $50 a month for that person in general.
Right.
So there's far less elasticity, and you're right. You can actually, you can actually theoretically, make just as much income doing that with a narrower
Mhm.
audience for sure.
Apparently, they've got 285 athletes with online OnlyFans accounts right now, and I think it's only going to get bigger. Now, there are a few of them who are doing some risque things,
Sure.
but that's really the minority. It's most of them are just out there giving you, and I think this is big time today. And we talk about it in journalism. Um, it's giving people access to places they can't go.
Hmm.
So locker room, you're not there.
Yeah.
If I take you there, now you follow my content.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. So you love me as an athlete. I will here come watch me train. Here's how I eat. Here's what
Yeah.
I'm eating for breakfast as an elite athlete. Da 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 da. And it's not complicated. It just requires consistency and a fan base.
Right. And I think the podcast analogy is a good one. I think one of the reasons that, the really good athlete podcasts that are out there, or maybe not the good ones, the ones that have the biggest audiences, are the ones that create that kind of that atmosphere or that feel or that dynamic where you think, oh my gosh, I'm actually eavesdropping on a conversation with a couple of athletes that I could never have
Yeah.
access to before. And
Mhm.
those types of podcasts work really well for precisely the reason that you said, which is it provides that access. You almost feel as if you're eavesdropping on them, and that's a very powerful tool to really, build an audience and also to, connect with an audience.
Yeah. Bottom line for me, I think this is only the beginning. They got 285 athletes now. I would bet you this time next year, it'll be double easy, because once people see that it's a revenue stream for them, once advertisers see I get a very specific audience that I can really go after, oh, the money will increase, and then the people involved will increase on both sides.
Mm. But bottom line for me, agree with you that it's going to be this audience, the number of creators are going to explode on there. I think you're going to have a number of events that are going to be catalysts to create that. And the biggest event that I think will be the biggest catalyst to attract people on OnlyFans will be the Olympics, because the Olympics is a collection of these minor sports where you got people who are very passionate about them.
That's a that's an unusually good point from you. Let's move on. Man, they will not. College football is cool, man. I love college football. I've covered the NFL for parts of 30 years. College football is my favorite sport. I love, and not just because my Buckeyes are good. I love the pageantry. I just love the excitement with it. They're doing their best to try to screw it up, in my opinion. Fox wants a 24-team college football tournament playoff. ESPN is pushing back. The Big Ten is trying to, it's funny how the Big Ten, and you've talked about this a lot, it's kind of usurped the SEC's role in terms of being the power conference right now.
They're the big bully 10 right now.
Well, that's what I hope they bully and they win this particular fight, because there's not enough, to me, tell me what you think. There ain't enough good elite college football teams to satisfy a 2014 playoff. You're going to get some 5-loss teams, some 4-loss teams in there. Think about who's in the top 25 right now. 20 to 25. And you're just
Yeah.
like, come on, man, stop.
Right, right. So what's happening is all the conferences want the 2014 playoff, it looks like, or at least going to back it, with the exception of the SEC right now. So the Big Ten wants this to happen. Uh, what what's what I find, I guess, a little bit surprising is it doesn't appear that the television networks have as strong of a demand for these products as you might think they would have. So I think that's ultimately what's going to drive this, as it does everything in college sports these days, which is, the television rights. Are the television rights going to go up with the 24 playoff? Are they going to impact the ratings during the regular season, or the viewership during the regular season, or the regular season rights? We don't know yet. So from a competitive point of view, I actually think, well, how many teams are there in the playoff now? 12?
Yeah.
I think from a competitive point of view, I think you maybe need maximum 8 teams. There's really only 6 to 8 teams every year that can win the championship. That I
Yeah.
think is right. But if you take a step back from the pure competitive idea of a national champion, the 24 team playoff could be really, really good, because I would say the first, you'll take first eight will get buys, and so the 16 will go down to eight, I assume, right? And those first 8 games should all be on the college campuses.
Right.
Those will be great, okay? And then if you play the next round, the round of 16, also at the home field of the, colleges, so the 1 through 8, not only they get a bye, they get home field advantage in their first game. Okay, then I think you'll have a tremendous amount of interest in these. But if
Okay.
it becomes like a generic, like, if I have to see another game, like an NCAA tournament game, if I have to see another NCAA tournament game in Dayton or Greensboro where there's like
Right.
6 fans, it's no good. But if you do that for the first couple of rounds, maybe.
Well, here's the problem with that. We just got through a few weeks ago talking about these buys are bad because you're sitting for a month. Somebody else has got a game. And there's a reason why Indiana, which proved to be easily the best team in college football last year, they're the only team that's won with a bye since they started. And so I think if you can come up with a system where there's not a bye, that's better. I like playing at home. And maybe if you have to travel to my place, I get juiced up more than if I'm playing, at some neutral field. And so maybe the bye wouldn't be as impactful. But again, when are they going to start playing? Because kids are out from school.
Yeah.
It's a whole different vibe. Even if you are playing at the crib in December, I mean, depending on where, I don't know, maybe you can still sell it out anyway.
Well, no, you'll sell it out, I think, for sure. I think there's a couple things that have to happen. One is that you can't wait 3 weeks to start the, playoff
Yeah,
games. And maybe you wait 2 weeks, you have the Army Navy game its own weekend, and then you start. Okay. So the worst thing is maybe the better teams will get 2 weeks off. But if you're the number one seed playing against the 16th seed, you're going to win. If you're number two playing against 15, you're going to win. So even if there's an upset, you're going to be like two playing against, the 23rd seed or something. You're going to win.
right.
Yeah. So, and I think they should reseed the rounds as well. So, number one team plays the lowest seeded team, regardless of where they came from in the previous
I like
round.
that. I like that.
Yeah. So I think there's ways. I agree with you on the bye, but I think there's ways to mitigate that.
I looked at the bottom 5 teams. So if they had done it last year, uh, number 20 was Arizona. Number 21 was Virginia. 22 Georgia Tech. 23 Tennessee. 24 Houston.
Yeah, none of those teams would have won anything. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, but you could say the same thing for the NBA every year too, which is
Right.
that there's really 5 or 6 teams that can win it all. You know, by the way, I think the NBA I think the 4 best teams are actually are in the conference finals this year. But
Dude.
uh, Yeah, but yeah, so I think it's going to be a question of, I actually don't think that that's going to be a competitive disadvantage by having a bye because the disparity in talent is so wide, and you're going to be playing at home, I would assume. And I think that mitigates the bye issue, but it's a real issue nonetheless. And I think that's going to be that's going to be really interesting to see this year in the 12 team playoff if that trend continues to hold.
No, I'm yeah, I think that yeah, I want it to be competitive. I'm not interested in seeing some 7-14 play. It's because again, as we've discussed, even now there's really, as you said, there's really only 5 or 6 teams that can legitimately compete and win it. And now that, especially until they get a salary cap, because some teams like Ohio State and Oregon, Alabama are spending 45, Texas, they're spending $45 million, and somebody for a roster, and somebody else is spending, 18, $20 million for a
Mhm.
roster. That's a big old disparity. And Signetti in Indiana says, "Oh, we don't really do it like that." It'll be interesting to see how long they can be like, well, we don't pay, because again, they're a big state school. They should be able to find some money. And kids and parents want what they want. Like, okay, it's great. You're Indiana. You got a great program. You got a great team. I'm not coming there for $1 million if Alabama's going to pay me $4.5 million.
No chance.
Right.
No
So
chance. Yeah.
the issue will be, can Signetti keep winning with lesser talent because of his culture? And that'll be the test. That'll be the
Yeah,
question, and nobody knows the answer.
the answer I do. The answer is yes to a point, and then it won't matter. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the culture at Pittsburgh is better than anything. In terms of
Yeah.
the NFL, it's a great culture. They don't have a quarterback. They can't win. They don't have an offense. They can't win. Um, I mean, I guess it's not the same thing as a salary, as paying players, but
No, I
um,
think you're right.
but look at the SEC right now. The SEC, Texas, I don't consider part of the traditional SEC because, but
Right.
but there's one like big bully team in the SEC now, and that's Texas. There aren't really any bully schools left in the SEC because of money. That changed over the last 3 or 4 years, and
Yeah.
I think the Indiana situation was very, very specific because it's a great coach who offered an opportunity to a lot of athletes who weren't getting recognition or weren't getting paid elsewhere. So it kind of all came together. But now he's going to have to pay, or Indiana's going to have to pay in order to get the talent there. So I think it's going to be a vastly different. It's going to be yes to a point, and then
I,
another program's going to emerge like that, and then eventually that's going to be overtaken by, well, you got to pay now. Now that I'm a top program, I'm expecting to be paid.
I think the most interesting thing for me for Indiana, because they've never been good. It's not like they were good, then they fell off. They've never been good. So to me, it's all about how they handle this year and next year being the hunted, where you are now everybody's big game, where everybody gets up for you, everybody prepare, everybody spends a portion of their practice getting ready for you, and it's just a different lifestyle and a different world when you get everybody's best game every week,
That's
and
true. That's
you
that's
ain't the dog.
yeah.
You
That's
not getting
very
paid.
yeah. It's Ohio State has a different playing against Ohio State is a different game for every. It's like playing in the final round of a Masters with Tiger Woods. It's just a different experience.
Yeah,
And but I believe very strongly that Indiana happened to have a quarterback who accounted for probably 2 to 3 wins for them last year. And they're not going to have it's unusual to get a quarterback like that a couple of years in a row. And so I think they'll fall back to the pack pretty quickly this year. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
yeah. Bottom line for me, I ain't trying to see the tournament go to 24 teams. 16 I can live with. I might even like that. But 24, way too much for me.
But bottom line for me, I just want the playoffs to start a couple of weeks after the season and not wait 3 or 4 weeks. I think that's going to even the playing field as much as possible. And if it does go to 24 teams, I agree with you, that's too many. But let's make sure we play home games for the teams that earn the bye. And let's make sure we reshuffle the seeding to reflect the top 8 teams getting to play the weakest seeds.
And now, friends, it's time for our favorite conversation of each show. It's the Buckeye Corner. This week's topic, Ryan Day, my boy, says, hey, get rid of the Big Ten championship game. It'll make Michigan and Ohio State more meaningful at the end. Now, I think what he's saying is that'll be the true Big Ten championship. To hell with USC and Oregon and Penn State and everybody else.
I think that's exactly what he's saying. I also think he's looking up at the Big Ten conference, championship game and thinking nobody wants to play in these anymore. They're not that
No.
meaningful. They can actually hurt you rather than help you. So a lot of teams don't want to play. There was even talk, I was reading somewhere, there was even talk about some teams who, if they knew they were getting into the college football playoff, might actually rest players in these conference championship games. So
Yeah.
I think they, much like the bowl games, conference championship games have become quickly outdated.
No, they served a purpose. They were important for a time. Time has moved on. Change is good. Evolution is good. Things are always evolving, constantly evolving, whether it's business or whether it's football. Football is big business, so it makes sense that it would continue to evolve. And so, yeah, I think we're one more announcement away because once they get this extended playoff, I think they'll say extended playoff is this. That means
Right.
the end of the conference championship games as we know them.
Okay, there's 12 teams in the college football playoff this season, 26, 27. Let's say 4 of them are from the Big Ten. Who are those 4 teams this year? Let's see if we agree on those. I'm gonna write them down.
Oh, I'm not. Ohio State, Oregon, SC, and probably Michigan because I think Kyle Whittingham is a good coach, and they will play football the way it's supposed to be played, and they should have enough talent if they play the game the way it's supposed to be played to get to the playoff.
You're right on 3 of the 4.
You have Michigan not there. Who do you have in his place?
Penn State. Have you seen Penn State's schedule?
No, it's a cakewalk.
Penn
You know,
State, Penn
I
State,
forgot. I like Matt Cook too.
Penn State's schedule is Texas A&M's schedule last year, where
Oh,
Texas A&M was like undefeated but didn't
yeah.
really play anybody. Penn State's going to be that's going to be the big that's my prediction. That's going to be the big story in the Big Ten this year is that Penn State makes Penn State's going to have like an 11-0 season or 12-0 season. No one's going to figure out why. But it's interesting. You don't think Indiana's going to make it this year?
God, I forgot about Indiana. So, okay, let me think about this again. See, this is what happened when you asked me to spur the moment.
Uh,
So that's it. Okay, that makes it a more interesting question. So there's Ohio State's in it. Oregon is in it. I really think USC is good.
USC's good. It's you'll Karina's at USC. Family weekend is Ohio State USC this year, so we're going. So I've already got everything ready to go. So I'm going to watch Ohio State USC Halloween night in Los Angeles
I'm
at the
trying to work
Coliseum.
that out. I got a few moving parts. I'm trying to work that out.
You're coming. You're coming. We're going. Yeah.
Uh,
Karina's got a senior house with it's like a compound of 2 houses with 16 of her closest friends. So you got to come. There's going to be lots of happening there. So
we're staying at the compound.
I'm not saying the compound. I'm just
Oh,
saying
okay.
we're going to the compound. Are you
I was
kidding?
gonna say.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I'll
I'm
book a
staying.
ticket tonight.
I already booked a hotel like in Santa Monica. I'm
Oh,
staying far.
you far.
I'm staying far away
I was
from
gonna
USC.
say
Yeah.
that's like a 2 hour ride
No, it's
with LA traffic.
well with LA traffic. Yeah, maybe. Um,
You
so
know
okay.
what?
Anyway,
You said Santa Monica. I'm thinking Santa Barbara.
oh, Santa Barbara's all right.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, Santa Monica is just Santa
All right.
Monica is a nice part of LA.
Ohio State, Oregon, USC, Indiana. No Michigan, no Penn State.
Hmm. I think the teams that are for sure the only two that I feel 100%, not 100%, two teams I feel most confident about are USC and Oregon.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're not really you think the Buckeyes schedule bites them this year.
I think this is going to be a down year for Ohio State. And I think they are going to get the benefit of the doubt because they're such a huge draw and have such a national following that they could
Right.
have a slightly down season and still make the playoff. But I think USC and Oregon and Penn State are the three that I think are almost for sure in. And then I think you can make the case of Indiana, Ohio State, or possibly Michigan, because I think if Michigan's quarterback is actually good, which he might be, Michigan could potentially sneak in there. But that's about it. I think, but
But
I really like Oregon and USC this year.
that's seven good teams,
Yeah.
really good teams, battling out for probably four spots.
So wouldn't it be good if there was a 2014 playoff?
No, I'd rather have the best ones. I want to be
Right.
part of the elite class. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. All
Uh,
right. So wait. So your four are Oregon, USC, Ohio State, and Indiana.
yeah, I like Signetti.
Yeah. Okay.
I just like him. I like his swag.
Yeah.
I like the way he puts a team together. Those kids have now bought into whatever he says do.
Hmm.
They like it. Yes, sir. Don't
Okay.
even think about it.
Right. And I have USC, Oregon, Ohio State, the same as you, and I have Penn State instead of Indiana. But I think Indiana. Listen, there's also a chance that Indiana is going to go 12-0 this year. You know
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
I mean, so I think it'll be fun. I think college football will be fun. College football is always fun. It's my favorite sport.
My favorite sport by far.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Yeah.
And now I got to work on it's never just about me. I'm trying to see if I can get my son, out to California that time of year, you know. So, and that's cross country trip for him. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, you're not that far. You
No,
know.
I'm a 3 hour flight. Not a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
deal
yeah.
for me.
You're not that far.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the bottom line for me, I guess I believe in the Buckeyes. Tough schedule. They may drop a couple more games, but they'll still figure out a way to get where they're supposed to get,
Hmm.
provided we find a running back.
Hmm. Whoop. Bo Jackson, but not the good Bo Jackson, the other Bo
Well, I was
Jackson.
gonna say it's not really so much Bo. Ohio State has not had a dominant offensive line the last 2 or 3 years. They've had great skilled people,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, now the defensive line has been really good. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to move people and stop people from moving you. And they've not been able to move people on the offensive line.
And that's what Indiana and Miami did to them. Those are two losses. That's exactly what happened. Bottom line for me, I'm worried about Ohio State, and I'm not sure Julian Saint's going to finish the year as the starting quarterback.
Ooh,
Just
well,
telling you that. By
it's
injury
right.
or by injury or not by injury. I hope not by injury, but I think that it's you're going to see another quarterback playing for Ohio State this year for sure.
No, there's an HSO. That's a good way to close it out. He's Jeremy Pink. I'm Jacques Taylor. This has been the bottom line on sports. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review. 5 only. We appreciate you, and we need those.
Yes, we do. If you rate us 5 stars, we'll even open an OnlyFans account. All right, all right, we'll see everybody next week.